on the internet. This is the #1 talk show online, the world-famous Jiggy Jaguar Show.
Back live here on our big broadcast. We are coast to coast and border to border on iHeartRadio today. We have got a tremendous guest with us today. B. Michael Antler is with us. He has a newly published historical novel. It's called Josephus, a novel. And he joins us today here on Skype audio to discuss this book as well as many other topics. And we go to the Skype audio. We have got B. Michael Antler with us today. So tell us a little bit about yourself, my friend.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm somewhat of an average guy, but you know, I went to law school, and the one thing I knew I didn't want to do was be a lawyer after I did that, but there's still a lot of good knowledge you get from law school, and I knew I could do something else. So I sort of was divinely inspired to write this book, and we can talk about that.
Fantastic.
So I've become a novelist, and I love what I do because it's creative in nature. It's not stressful, like you have a deadline every day or a boss is nagging you, and it makes me happy. So it's almost not like even work.
We have got a great guest with us today. B. Michael Antler is with us today. He has got Josephus, a novel, and he joins us today here on our big broadcast. And so this book, incredibly well written. Talk to me a little bit about the writing process for this book.
Okay. Wow. So this is my first novel, and before I did it, I didn't even know if I could do it. So I said to myself, all right, I'm going to write what I think is the most interesting part of this book, you know, as like the first chapter. And of course it fell right in the middle of the book, but I wrote it and I read it and it was like, this is not bad. I didn't know if it was great or good but I knew it wasn't bad. And I said, hey, let's write it a little bit more. And before I knew it, it really started coming together, and it became clear that I had a path to connect all the dots and weave this epic narrative about Josephus, who is this character who has so much importance to both Jews and Christians. Josephus was the first independent source that verified the existence of Jesus Christ. And he did it in a contemporary fashion, where you had people in the Gospels. Josephus, I should say, did it on his own accord, completely disassociated with followers of the Christ. So he's incredibly important in that respect because he's respected as a historian, as a scholar, independent, and he talked about Jesus. And yeah, I knew about this guy, Jesus, and John the Baptist. It's called the Testimonium Flavium.
It is a great guest with us today. B. Michael Antler is with us. Josephus, a novel. It is the latest from him, and he joins us today here on our big broadcast. Yeah. And did you have something you wanted to say there, Michael?
Oh, no, I'm just excited the way you are about it.
Okay, good. I want to get back to our questions here. So, Josephus was a Hebrew priest. He was turned Roman adopted son of Caesar. Was he a traitor, patriot, optimist? He's considered the greatest traitor of the Jews in the history of Judaism. Break it down, boys.
Yeah, okay. So many people can't believe that a Hebrew priest would actually say, yeah, now, due to circumstances beyond my control, I call myself son of Caesar. My name is now not Joseph anymore. It's Josephus, Flavius Josephus, because son of Caesar, as I previously said. In my opinion, from all the studying I did, and I went through Josephus's old text, like, you know, evangelicals go through the Bible, and it was, basically word to word, trying to figure out what Josephus was saying. He struck me as an opportunist, he entered into a suicide pact with 40 other of his soldiers when they knew the Romans were closing in and going to kill them all. And somehow he ends up the last guy alive through this weird way that they choose to kill themselves. He's like the last guy to pick a straw, or, and it's very strange. It's hard to kind of believe that Josephus would be the last guy living out of 40 people chosen to kill themselves one by one. And then he fully embraces Rome. He was kind of forced into this position. He never wanted to become a governor of Galilee. He was a Hebrew priest, but the uprising happened. People, it was obvious the country was going to war, and he got sucked into it. And he did the best he could, which ended up being like very, very well, because he was basically the only guy left living in Jerusalem. And I hate to laugh about that, but it's true. Basically, all of Jerusalem was slaughtered during this war.
B. Michael Antler. He's with us today in our broadcast, Josephus, a novel. And he's with us today here on our big broadcast. This novel takes Josephus' nearly 2,000-year-old history, turns it into a modern narrative packed with action, prayers, intrigue, and divine intervention. It includes 30 original illustrations, commissioned and artistically designed personally by the author. And he joins us today here on our big broadcast. So why did you become a writer? Tell us about this, B. Michael Antler.
Well, I'd always been good with words my entire life. And because I didn't want to be a lawyer, I said the other option is teaching, or, doing something at a high level on my own. And I just sort of got drawn into Josephus when I was kind of trying to make those decisions, whether I wanted to be a teacher, whether I wanted to do something law-related, but maybe not practice. And this character just came upon me, and I almost felt divinely inspired to write about him, just because it seemed like the universe conspired to make him stand out and make me pique my interest. And I just the story is true. It's a true story. My book is a novel based on the true story, but it's incredible that this really happened to a guy. It would be in modern day equivalent if, like when George W. Bush went into Iraq and he said, "Oh yeah, by the way, Kusei, you're kind of cool. You're going to be my son during the war with your own country. We're destroying it all." That's what happened. Josephus became the son of Caesar during a war between Rome and Judea. It's really beyond belief, but it's true, and it really happened. Yeah.
It is B. Michael Antler. He's with us today. Josephus, a novel, and he's with us today here in a broadcast. So why did you choose an ancient religious figure like Josephus to write about?
Okay. Because what I was, sort of like to add on to what I was saying, is he came at me, and the story was just so compelling. So compelling, and also I did research, and at the time when I started this book, no one had touched this in novel form in almost 100 years. And I was like, are you kidding me? This is the character that Ben-Hur was based on. And that's true. Lew Wallace says it in his memoir. So I just said, well, it's up to me. And I took it on. In the last year, interestingly enough, someone else has started writing about Josephus too. So I kind of have this feeling like, we're going back to roots in a way, where we're looking at stories that are right around the Bible, maybe not in the Bible though. And this is maybe the best.
It is B. Michael Antler, Josephus, a novel. He's with us today here on our big broadcast. Did you really travel to Jerusalem to do research for this book, or was it just a vacation?
Okay. I actually did travel to Jerusalem, and I did serious work on this book.
Fantastic.
Did I enjoy myself in Israel? Yes. There's no question about that. But I went to the Israel Museum. I saw these ancient coins, ancient gladii, the Roman swords, these ancient weapons of war. Do you know what a caltrop is? It's these nasty little barbs that were essentially the ancient landmine. And if you put your foot on one, or your horse put its hoof on it, it would pierce your foot, and you'd become completely immobilized. So it was an amazing learning experience. I incorporate things I saw in Jerusalem into the novel, and I actually did writing on the beach of Tel Aviv. So you know what? Yeah, I did work in Israel.
Fantastic. So tell us about your writing style.
All right. I hate writers, and I hate to use that word hate because it's so strong, but I strongly dislike writers that think it's a necessary thing to use a thesaurus on like every page and incorporate as many big words into sentences when they have no business being there whatsoever. The pretentious writer, I guess. So, yeah, I don't talk down to people, but I don't give you that feeling like I'm above anyone. It's a very modern feel for this ancient tale. There's a lot of violence, but Jerusalem was destroyed. Over a million people were slaughtered. So to depict that, yeah, you got to depict some violence. I really try and keep the curse words to a minimum. There are some, but it's not like some of these books where, you have F-bomb, which is very rarely used. And I think they're more effective that way. The other thing I really focused on when writing this book was the sonorous quality of words. I love the way that some words sound next to other words. Whether it's a rhyme, whether it's just a satisfying description. And I really focused on the way that words sound. So beyond just the meaning, I tried to bring that as an extra quality for the reader that, I think most other authors don't think about as much.
Fantastic. We have got B. Michael Antler with us today. Josephus, a novel. It's the latest from him. And he joins today here on iHeartRadio. Also 50-plus AM/FM stations across the country and around the world. So, B. Michael, tell us a little bit about what you want out of this book. What are some of your goals for this book? Josephus, a novel.
Okay. Yes. It's like something that's about 2,000 years ago. Well, we live in a very precarious time today. Rome was a republic run by senators elected by the people until one day it became an empire when someone said, I don't really like that, and I have an army. I'm not sure where this country is headed, but certainly the lessons that are taught through reading the history of 2,000 years ago are still applicable today, regardless of what your political persuasions or leanings might be. It also teaches us when people stop talking and just start using violence, an entire society can break down within months, years, very quickly is the point. Jerusalem was a thriving place in 65 AD. People were rich. Yes, it was corrupt in many ways because the Romans had their influence and the Jews that were, ministers in Jerusalem at the time weren't exactly the most honest, and that was, a big gripe of Jesus, who was around just 30 some years earlier. But people were mostly doing well, and it just took the Romans to slice their spear into the Jews and do something that was sort of like unforgivable that caused this uprising. And once an uprising started, it was nearly impossible to stop it. And I'd like people to sort of consider that now more than ever, we really need to not just talk to one another, but listen to one another, so we don't end up destroying ourselves in many ways like the Jews did in Jerusalem. There are sort of two stories to this book. Yes, there's the war with the Jews against the Romans, but in Jerusalem, there's also a war between the Jews against themselves, with different factions all fighting for power over Jerusalem, while the Romans are outside fighting them. It's total madness. And it happened because people said, I want what I want, and I'm going to kill you for it, instead of let's figure out the best way to manage our lives together.
We've got a great guest with us today. He joins us live. B. Michael Antler, Josephus, a novel. He's with us today here on our big broadcast. Well, as we go, my friend, how do people get the book, get involved with you online, social media? Tell us all about it.
Yes. Okay. So the book's available on Amazon. Right now, it's only 99 cents on Kindle. It's a special. It's running for just a couple more days. Then it'll go to regular price. But, my goal is for people to read it. So I want to make it accessible. It's also available in hardcover and paperback. You can order that on Amazon as well. Or you can go to Josephus Novel, and that's spelled all one word, josephusnovel.com. And you can order the book from my website, and I'll sign it for you personally if you do.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you making time for us today. Thanks for coming on the program and chatting with us, B. Michael.